Bola is still with us in the studio, and we have joining us a social commentator, Smart Akbejoye. Smart, good morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Happy Independence.
And happy new month too.
Exactly. Now, someone said it is only in Nigeria they say happy weekend, happy Sunday, happy new month, happy. There's everything, happy everything.
Yes.
You know, it's quite interesting. Okay, Smart, let me start with you here. Yesterday, the president made a broadcast to the nation, and he touched several things. Well, basically, one of the issues he talked about was that this independence calls for solemn reflection. And later on in his speech, he also talks about the fact that he also calls for celebration. But as a Nigerian, looking at it from both sides and looking at your environment and how you assess what's going on in Nigeria, which of them would you tilt towards to? Solemn reflection more or celebration?
Well, solemn reflection, and also, of course, in the midst of sadness, of course, there is always cause to celebrate. So I'll probably take it 50-50. First, the solemn reflection, yes, when you look at it at 58, are we where we are supposed to be? No is the answer. At 58, are we making progress or remarkable progress? Yes, we could be making progress, but the progress perhaps is not very remarkable. Because if you're talking about making progress, your progress must reflect in the people. Your progress must reflect in infrastructure. Your progress must reflect in education. Your progress must reflect with the way the common person will say, yes, I am part of this nation. When you look at it, the common thing today you see is that the common Nigerian see himself as being deprived, see himself as being unfortunate to have come to this part of the world. So when you look at all this, you probably see, yes, it's a real cause of sober reflection. But then when you look at it on the other side too, it's just like when a poor man goes to the house of a multi-billionaire, he will look at it and say, what have I done wrong? This is somebody living in this house, and me, I live in a shanty. But then when they now say, okay, the owner of this house, come, let's go and see where the owner is. And you go to an orthopedic hospital and you say that his leg is hanged somewhere. Oh, he's living in pain. That he wish he could leave that, he could forgo all those things that he has and perhaps have a good health. You will now look at it that, okay, I give thanks to God that even though I might not have money, but at least I have good health. So that is where I will probably look at it. Well, we are not at war. Sometimes when you look at the chemical attack at Afghanistan, Syria, all these things, you probably want to thank God that at least we are not there. You understand?
But if you flip the coin and see the killings,
but then when you look at it on the other hand, looking at it from the Boko Haram aspect, looking at it from this the Jos whatever, when you look at it, the Fulani herdsmen and the farmers and the herdsmen and the farmers, when you look at it, you perhaps want to, well, it is not all that of a sad story. We could still have cause to at least to celebrate, but it calls for more.
Okay. Well, Oba, some would say that your perception about this issue depends on where you're looking at it from. Are you looking at it from the 3 years administration of President Buhari? Some would say that beyond that is also what they call nascent democracy, that we just kickstarted this in 1999. Others will say, oh, we are 58 years. So some would even take you as far back as 1914 to let you know that Nigeria has existed for over 100 years. How would you say we have fared in moving together as a nation? Yesterday we talked about the Nigerian dream, because each time on October 1st, focus is on how well is this administration doing, not much about how well is Nigerian faring as a nation over the years.
Whichever way you look at it, micro or macro, contemporary or historical, there has been a consistent chain of failure of leadership. Gross failure of leadership. A friend of mine who used to believe that I was a very antagonistic public analyst and who used to tell me regularly that I had an iconoclastic streak, traveled with me to Dubai. He seldom goes international. In fact, the furthest he had ever gone was Ghana. Very comfortable, materially comfortable guy. So about 4 weeks ago, we traveled to Dubai. When he got to Dubai, he was smitten. And at a point, I told him, I said, all the times I visited Dubai, I'd never taken the light trail. Fortunately, we had somebody, like a chaperone, so we got the card for the light trail, and we boarded the train. You know, the first statement that came out from his mouth, it was a curse. I won't repeat it on national TV or international TV. He cursed everybody that had ever ruled Nigeria. Everybody. Look, we can sit here and be deluding ourselves that, we are doing well and weller. We are in the well and weller party. But if you've seen other climes, and if you've seen what leadership has done in other polities, and sometimes using particularly the example of Dubai, let me shock you guys. The neighborhood where I contested election in 1997 in the UK, I got there and I got lost. Tremendous change of infrastructure, common infrastructure, basic things. I knocked on every door, 3,000 plus doors. I knocked, walked, literally walking, and I got into that neighborhood and I lost my bearings because they've turned things around. They've not only the government doing it, but engaging with the private sector. There's a major brand in retail district called Tesco. It has built about 1,000 apartments. Put its store, its major store, in the facility. That in itself has changed. You know what? We need to tell ourselves across the board, not only in political leadership, and I was even challenging. I addressed a group of distinguished Nigerians, and I said, you know what? It's easy for us to be pointing accusing fingers at those who are in government. But intellectually, indeed, entrepreneurially, those of us who are leaders in the private sectors too, we are driving in our reverse gear. I just gave you the example of a major retail outfit totally turning around the common infrastructure of a precinct. Now, I told Nigerians in the diaspora, wealth is literally beckoning at you people to come and make it whilst you are still living abroad. So, let me give you an example. If 10 Nigerians in the diaspora were to form, say, a mass housing building society, and they contribute £200 every month end. Mark you, £200 is the kind of money they spend when they are sitting socializing. Contribute £200 every month end. 10 of them. At the end of the first financial year, that housing association registered in Nigeria as a bona fide prima facie housing association, that housing association would have nothing less than £24,000. £24,000, you could still put up 3 units of 3-bedroom bungalow somewhere around Songwater in a gated community that many, even in our status, and some of them when they visit them would want to live. Look, to expect the government to do it alone is delusional. Right. And the government to want to basically, like I was giving the example of the EFCC Act, the ICP, all the anti-corruption acts in Nigeria, you know why they will never serve us well? They have over-concentrated power in the presidency at the expense of democratizing power to those who can help them.
All right. So that takes us to the issue of restructuring. But let us focus on education right now and see how we can look back and see whether it is like my colleague was saying, earlier on, whether we're looking at the last 3 years or we're looking at the last, since nascent democracy in the Fourth Republic, or we're looking at since independence, or we're looking at since the past 108 years, as the case may be. Now, let me come to you, Smart. The education sector in Nigeria is one that a lot of people have, comments to make here and there. When we come to the rating of the universities in Nigeria, some people would say certainly the Nigerian universities don't stand amongst the first 100 in the world, or even the first 1,000 in the world, depending on how you see it. But from your assessment, how is the education faring? Let's start from there.
Well, if we're looking at how has the education failed, I don't want to look at the past 3.5 years.
Okay.
You see, we have this problem of perhaps narrowing whatever we are going through now to the past 3.5 years. No, I want to look beyond that.
Right.
Our educational sector, honestly, is not doing well. And if I'm saying it's not doing well, you see, the bedrock of any educational system is the primary education. Do we have primary education? Sincerely, ask me and you, no. And if I mean no, you see, I'm not talking about the elites that could afford a sound basic education, a primary education for their children. I'm talking about the mass populace, because it is the mass populace that makes the change, not the few elites. So if we're looking at the mass populace that makes the change, so you now know that our primary education system has collapsed. Sometime I was driving and I saw a primary school on the road from Itokin going to Ejebode. When you see, and I went down, I want to say, probably, do we have children in this school? There were children in that school. Do you know what they did? They had tire here, and put a plank on it. That is their chair. And their table is their lap. So when you look at the structural, when you look at it from that angle, you saw that primary education has collapsed. Go to all the primary schools today. Honestly, even though where they have chairs and table, that is not all. They are what we call the basic fundamentals in education, in primary education. Those things are not there. It is not feeding the children. So there are so many things that are wrong. So from the primary education, when you now look at it at the secondary education, now, the secondary, because of course, if your foundation is faulty, definitely the building you put on it, of course, will have a structural defect. Now, when you now look at it again, at the secondary school, they are supposed to identify, look, this child is not good to go further and do medicine or to do law. Why are we pushing him? Let us look at the area of his technical competence. This guy is good to go to a vocational school. Do we have vocational school again? What we call technical education, technical schools. We don't have them. It has collapsed. And this thing did not collapse 3.5 years ago. It has collapsed in the past 20 years. When you're now looking at it, so when you look at it again, you talk about education again. You see, you probably want to narrow it down again to sports development. From the primary school, those days, you can identify a potential footballer, a potential JJ Okocha. You can identify a potential athlete, Ishoma Ajuma. You can identify a potential Kafilat Gunkoya. You can identify a potential Innocent Egbunike from the primary school. Do we still have that again? So if you are looking at it, so many things that have contributed to youth restiveness, you go and look at it, it is the foundation. That is the foundation of that primary school. We don't have it again. And that is why sometimes when I look at it, sometimes I feel so sad that Nigerians, we are narrowing our lack of development in the past 3.5 years. Let us look at it beyond. And what do? We cannot continue to lament. It is right time. You see, I keep saying that the moment you become the governor of a state, you cease to be a party member. And you see yourself as the governor of that state, not the governor of the party. The moment you become the president of a nation, you cease to be the president of your party. You are now the president of the nation. When last did our president, when have we've never had it, where we had a retreat of the governors and the ministers and the president or head of state sitting down. Let us do a diagnostic analysis. In the first quarter that we're going to have 4 this year, But let us speak security, let us speak education, let us speak infrastructure. We need to discuss it and bring everybody that is involved. There is no government that runs the nation alone that succeeds.
It's all right. Well, let's drive this home a bit. Some would say that literacy has evolved over the years from just the ability to, write and read and all of that. That it's more of a skill acquisition. So what I found out recently is that we have people graduate from school. But it is after graduation that you now found out that, oh, there's no job. I need to go and learn barbing. I need to go and learn makeup. And then you find out that most of our graduates are driven back now to learn vocation, which most of them eventually make a living out of. In those days, we used to have grammar schools because they needed to teach us grammar. But what is lacking now is that our schools don't appear to be need-specific, meeting our needs, the skill need of the nation. How do we drive this education policy to a desired future?
Some of us are fortunately profiting from the irresponsibility of government historically. And I'm emphasizing historically because I don't necessarily want to pin it on this, present administration alone. I was addressing a young new generation church yesterday, invited as a guest speaker, and I was telling my audience that the new literacy is code writing. When I was a boy in Motion in the 70s, Elijah was a stark illiterate, but she was the one investing in my education. She would come home and tell me, Adisa, come and help me write, what about me collector? And I was the literate member of the family then, helping her to transcribe our thoughts, our emotions, to little letter to be sent to her brother. And I was telling those kids yesterday, I said, you know what, they're not kids, they're young persons. I said, you know what, I said, I'm fast becoming an illiterate, and I'm already fighting against it because me too, I'm learning code writing. Because in the next 5 to 10 years, what numeracy and literacy was in the 70s, code writing, ability to write application, transcribe your thoughts, ideas into app will be the new literacy. Look, until those who put together our curriculum, let me give you a practical example. 7 years ago, I convinced a returnee automotive mechatronics engineer to let us start a training school around him. So we started the Automotive Mechatronics Training Institute. We designed our curriculum originally for roadside mechanics who were getting disillusioned with working with contemporary technologies in modern automobile. We discovered to our chagrin, 2 classes after, that people were coming from the best of universities in Nigeria to sit in that class until tomorrow, as I'm talking to you now, we are handling about 500 people across different classes. Till tomorrow, as we speak, that is one class where I tell people jocularly that you will see Mufu, who dropped out of primary school and learned mechanic, sitting with Chukuma, who went as far as doing masters in mechanical engineering at Nsukka, or Kayode, who did computer science in Ibadan, sitting together. Because you know what? Certificates don't solve problems. Skilled human beings solve problems. And you only pay, human beings anywhere in the world, pay for the problems that people solve for them. Yeah. My brother, the success of that enterprise made me about 5 years ago to start upping from the capitals of the world again to look for the best of Nigeria in building and construction. We decided that, you know what, the first thing we would do would be to skill upgrade the typical bricklayer who would still want to work and put, when he puts the block on the say, Baba Taju, go straight. Even when we were young in Mushi, we used to see those masons, those bricklayers use that thing with the spirit level.
Yes.
We used to see them use it so meticulously. These days, also Babataju. Look, Bolaba, my eyes are squint. If I tell Babataju, the dimension to which my squint eyes sees is what to do with you. My brother, about time, we came to the realization that formal education as given to us by our colonial masters is about 200 years behind the contemporary phase of education. And about time we integrated practical hands-on solution provision to our fantastic esoteric curricula. About time.
All right, Smart, we have just about 3 minutes before the news update for the time, but let's utilize this time before we get along. Now, we have about over 10 million out-of-school children. Nigeria still has the highest rate of out-of-school children in the world right now. And the government came up with the school feeding program at the time to encourage enrollment, especially amongst at the primary level. And in the northern region, it worked to a great extent because there was a record of new enrollees into the system. But however, it is one thing to bring these children into the classroom for the few hours they're supposed to learn. Is another thing for them to learn and have skill based on what Bola was saying earlier on. How do we reconcile that?
Well, in the first place, if you're looking at the out-of-school children, you probably want to categorize them. Probably from where do we have majority of these children?
60% of them are from northern Nigeria.
Over 70% of them are from northern part of the Nigeria.
Yeah.
And what is the outcut of this? Almajiri, where a man will have about five wives, give birth to children. He does not care what comes of the children. The children will go to the streets. You see, education. Let us begin to reorientate these parents themselves, first of all. Because those children, by the time they are 17, 18 too, they are also becoming fathers. Those girls, by the time they are 12, 13, they are becoming mothers. So you look at it that there is something that is wrong fundamentally. That is why sometimes I wake up in the morning, I don't want to even go to church. And if I don't want to go to church, I will make trouble with my wife so that she will not wake me to say, let's go to church. Because in the first place, our religious leaders have look, they are contributory to this issue. Let us begin to educate them from the churches, from the mosque, that don't send your children to the church. Don't think that it is God that will help you to take care of your children. Have what you can. And that is why I think there are more things to be done in the north. And that is why you find out that if there is any pandemonium today, if there is any breakdown of anything today, it's mostly from the north. And you know what? If they really concentrate on the north, there should not be any problem from the north, because God has so blessed the north with enormous resources, mineral resources, natural resources. So it is so sad that the north needs to be reorientated. First, this issue of Almajiri, and that is even what brought us again to the issue of this nomadic form of agriculture.
Well, let's talk about the issue of comparison. About 1, 2, 3 decades ago, when students are taken to school, you see the hunger for learning. You're looking forward to something. I want to become. But if you make comparison with young people now, not so many people are hungry for learning, hungry for reading and all of that. Do you think the values have changed so much that, Smart, I'm going to ask you this, do you think the values have changed so drastically that the education, the way we go to school to educate is going to change?
People want to make money now.
Yes, you see, perhaps if the major reason, the driving point is that, yes, I want to be educated so I can take care of my family, I can take care of myself, I can be renowned in the society. Now, when you look at this, when you now look at somebody that did not go to school, there was one, I will draw this narrative from something that was circulated on social media. They asked the boy, what do you want to do? He said, I want to be doing Yahoo Yahoo. And they said, what do you mean? He said, yes. He now mentioned social person. He said they should look at social person. That should be, this is what he's doing. And that he look at the house that he has built, look at his cars, look at this one that is a lawyer, look at his tie, look at his this thing. He said, this is what he wants to do. So when you now look at this, when you reflect at this, you will look at it that, look, there is a problem. There is a problem somewhere that even when you strive to get the education, and after getting all this education, you now realize that it's not taking you anywhere. That is, you now probably start, that, like Bola Abbas said, that you find out that these days, you first of all go and probably train as a lawyer. You are now coming back to probably learn event planning, or
The real things.
real things.
The real things. The
So
real
in the
skill.
first, why not have learned event planning from the scratch,
That's right.
rather than first going to school to do mass comm and coming back again to do event planning? You see, Yoruba will say there is no way you will talk about a major thing that you will not talk about the cause. You see, it still boils down to the fact that the government, they've not been driving us in the proper direction. And of late, I don't discuss about the government as it is now. I looked at, the Yoruba will say, look, somebody, they said, look, what you are carrying is bend. And now said, you are looking at the up, you are not even looking at the down. You understand? So it is from the foundation. We've had this thing. At a point, we distorted. We have to go back to the basis. If it is not too late, look, to dismantle the building, set up a foundation, and start building on it gradually. If you start building on it gradually, a solid foundation will take us to somewhere. So we need a reorientation.
Right. So that solid foundation will be a new curricula, or
Yes,
or what
of
would
course.
that be?
You see, sometimes I listened to Clinton in 2012 when he was campaigning for Obama at I think somewhere I've forgotten where Obama had this where they had their national convention. I think Ohio also. Now, do you know what he said? He said America is beginning to look at a situation whereby we are going to drop some of our curriculum and focus on those things that the American's child needs now for a proper tomorrow.
That are relevant to us and our future.
You understand?
We
There
have
are
to
some
wrap
things that-
education for a bit. There's a lot to talk about. We saw a report on LAUTECH recently. The universities are
Quickly, let me just talk about
underfunding
LAUTECH.
and the rest.
LAUTECH, I'm appealing to the federal government to take over LAUTECH. LAUTECH should not be in the hand of both Oyo and Osun State.
As if the
anymore.
federal universities are doing any better. But
No,
let
let them even take it over first.
it's all right. Let us move to power very quickly. It's over.
Before you leave education, there's
Yes.
something I need to emphasize at this juncture.
Very briefly.
The only constant in education, historically and in contemporary times, is still the passion of a young person to want to be fulfilled. That those of us who are in leadership, both in the public and the private sector, have largely set the wrong itinerary for a willing and enthusiastic traveler is our fault. But I've been a circumstantial educator in the last 8 years of my life. And the only constants I've seen relative to when I was the son of a nobody in Mushi is still the passion to want to be led by those who claim to have seen the world. Passion to want to be led to fulfillment. And until those of us who are in position to structure how the itinerary will go with a view to getting them to the right destination, we cannot blame the youths.
Central to all of these discussions is power. I recall that while I was in school, we needed electricity to study. You know, you would have gone to class, you know, I mean, in the morning, come back late at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently.
It's no
But then, you know, there's a lot of factors mitigating against, you know, development and all of that. But the challenge here is that we still cannot achieve, I mean, we are still battling with less than 7,000 megawatts. When South Africa, for instance, is already recording 40,000, and we have evolved from NEPA to PHCN to DISCOs. Let me ask you, you have seen the world, you know, in your analysis, you've gone to places. Why is this a challenge 58 years after our independence?
The politics of power is wrong in Nigeria. And power has become like so many other things in this country, power has become a victim of our narcissistic, tribalistic, very regressive politics. The irony, let me shock you this morning, is that cumulatively in Nigeria we actually generate more than we need, but we do it on a nano basis. You, in your house, I don't need to be a fortune teller. If I'm a babalawo and I tell you that, I see that you are using generator in your house, they will slap you in Nigeria now. I just want to play the omniscient, and I look at you and I say, there's generator in your house. Whack your face. Everybody knows that now. You see, power has been over-centralized in Nigeria. My brother was saying earlier on that we generate 7,000 megawatts.
Less than that.
The irony as we speak is that the infrastructure, the transmission infrastructure that we take those 7,000 megawatts from the places where they're generated to the point where the distribution entities will pick them can actually capacity-wise take less than 5,000 megawatts. And yet, the 3 successive administrations up until this administration have really tried to work on it, but because like the PIB bill that's been there perpetually, like some other issues in our polity, the powerful elements in our polity have actually arrested development. And until we allow power to be organically and pragmatically devolved, let's say to the level of the states, this national entity that we think we can work on is actually a delusion. It will never work. It will never work. Nigeria is too big a country for you to want to have a central transmission authority transmitting power, that you will generate power in Egbe and you will first send it
to Oshogbo.
And from Oshogbo, you would now want to send it to Karanamoda. And the irony of power is that when it's moving like that, it's dissipating.
It's dropping.
There are leakages.
So what's the challenge with the decentralization? Because you make it sound like...
It's the politics. Some people believe that if they allow classical or organic devolution of power generation, power transmission, and power distribution, that certain parts of the country, like Lagos, commercial, like Port Harcourt, like Abuja, like Aba, will make far more progress than some places, say in the northeast, like say Masari, like this. So, you know what? Instead of letting you guys go and just blast to progress, we will hold you that you pull us along. My brother, the truth is that it ain't working for nobody.
All right, let's Smart. Some people have attributed this to inadequate skill on one hand. We have had very qualified electrical engineers one way or the other, but some people still say we don't have those qualified sometimes in the system enough. Others have attributed this to the issue of sabotage within the system, or maybe even external forces and all of that. What do you see? Over the years, we've spent billions of dollars in the power sector. That billions enough to start a new power system from the scratch, both infrastructure, both development, both skill. The money is sunk into the power sector in the last 20 years will be enough to even start a new power generation from the scratch.
Well, first, I disagree that we don't have enough manpower.
Okay.
Sometime in the early 80s, I used to know that there is what we call NEPA training school. I think somewhere in Ijora, if I'm not mistaken, NEPA training school Ijora, And when you go to that NEPA training school, an average, they will advertise in Daily Times or Tribune then that if you finish from secondary school, you can apply to NEPA training school. Now, at the NEPA training school now, when you go in, you see that an average person that come out from that school will do anything in electricity, both house wiring, both everything. They will do it with ease in just less than 2 years of their training. So it's not that so what happened to such this thing? You see, we have a problem.
An alumnus of such a similar training school, I can say with a degree of conceit, is private company maintains all the electrical infrastructure of the London School of Economics.
Now,
in London.
So now, you see, when you concentrate too much power in somebody's hand, and that person cannot be there, cannot be in all the 36 states, that person cannot be in all the 774 local governments, there will be a lacuna somewhere, there will be a failure somewhere, and that is what we have. First, I was thinking, you see, I had followed the campaign of the APC very well, and I was thinking, look, they're coming in, at least the first thing that Buhari was going to do was, he was going to do so many devolution of power. At least create some things that if they have done that, honestly, in his third year, going to the fourth year, honestly, some things would have been in place. But when they had campaigned for devolution of power, restructuring, and they are not even looking at it, and whoever asks for that now, why in the first place, if PDP is talking about it now, they have failed. They were in government for 16 years. You didn't put that in place. You're now coming back to tell us that if you come back, after 16 years, if you could not do anything, you're not telling me that after that you now come back and fix it. No way. So no way for them. Number one, going to this thing is that for things to move in this country, not only in the area of power, you see, we must have devolution of power. Then let us even talk about restructuring. Let the federal government divest themselves of some certain things. Like we have federal routes. Do you know if you are talking about power, you also talk about road. There is no road from Ikorodu to Shagamu as we talk. There is no road from Ikorodu to Ijebu-Ode as we talk. So what are you talking about? So you see, you see, we have gone to a situation whereby we should not be talking about federal road of the federation controlling electricity. These are minute things that, for goodness sake, if the whole of Igbobo can generate the electricity, go and generate it and transmit. And if just give us reality, employ people, let them pay tax.
I like the suggestions. They, however, appear long-term to me. You know, devolution of power.
No, that is the short term. That is the short term. That is the short term.
Because you generate your power in your house.
That is the short term.
It's the easiest. Look, like this. Because you know what? People in communities, immediately people in communities get together, you know, we can solve this. I have this friend who is a power specialist somewhere. I have this thing who is a power, we can do this. You know what? There is even an inherent entrepreneurial opportunity.
Yes.
Let's go.
So the reason why I said that is it would take a lot of policy enactment and power by law to allow for this.
Fantastic. I like the word.
To allow for this.
You didn't say legislation. Legislation may take a while, but policy enactment. Policy is what the presidency says policy is. If the president comes out today, just like my colleague is saying, and says, you know what, we have reviewed critically the power architecture in this country, and we have come to the conclusion that it is not working. And now we really want the entrepreneurial Nigerians. We want the inherent ability of Nigerians to provide solutions to their local problems. To now battle power. My brother, 1 month is too much.
Yeah, but the point there is, he was talking about the policy framework. We all know that the issue of power is still in the exclusive list of the federal government.
Yes, it is because in the first place,
exactly.
it is because there is no political will.
Okay.
You see, all this thing we're talking about is political will. Look here. You see, if they say this nation is not moving forward, perhaps I want to go sometime. Before now, you wait until 4 p.m. before you listen to
watch the television.
And by the time it is 12 midnight, they will shut off.
Oh, wonderful.
You understand? So if a government could come up and say, look, let us throw it open. Anybody could do this. I remember when a private station, radio station came up then. We are so excited. That is the radio station we want to listen to, not the Radio Nigeria that we used to listen to again. You see, create devolution of power, decentralize most of these things, this nation will move. If we're not even saying, don't even create region. Maybe if that's a problem, let every state, if Lagos State can move on our own, let Lagos State move. If Lagos can tar all the roads, all the federal roads, and put toll gates, so be it.
There's a national broadcaster in Nigeria.
Yes.
And when you get to, if you get to 10 living rooms of Nigerians in places like in the diaspora, especially in Europe, London to be more specific, or in the United Kingdom, if you get to 10 living rooms, you will see TVC minimum of 7 to 8. Look, we have a national broadcaster now. Why are they not keyed into? Why are they not watching it? In fact, the national broadcaster, ironically, leverages to broadcast nocturnally across Europe on the back of a Nigerian-owned private TV entity.
Wow.
Look,
Gentlemen.
when you allow people to solve their problems,
Yes, they will go.
We have to move ahead.
Yeah, exactly. All these are very interesting issues that border around our country and the way we live as a people. Now, we don't have all the time now. We have been talking about the power sector and power and energy being the foundation for economic development. But I'd like us to move beyond the issue of power now. Let's get into the issue of health. Those who have been to the hospital, you see, the side there tells you that, wow, are we really going there? Because if you bring, I was speaking to a medical doctor sometime, and he said, I need to tell you my mind. The hospital, the health sector it seems like it's non-existent in the country. Smart. Talk to us, gentlemen.
One day,
What?
I was coming from the club somewhere in Ogba. So, and I just felt I should stop over at TVC. There used to be one pub there then, one hangout. So
LTV.
LTV. So when I stopped there, and there was an accident immediately, and I called the Lasambos. They didn't come up after about 30 minutes. I took this person. I brought the person in my car, taking a risk. Brought the person to the general hospital, to the last suite or whatever, what they call it at Ikeja there. It took them almost about 40 minutes for them to attend, even though it's an emergency. The guy did not get proper care, and he said, please, Oga, I am the GM of Sozo company. I can't even find my phone. Can you take me to any hospital that I will pay, that I will give you the phone number of my wife? I took him to Akpeno in Ikorodu, and they treated him. The next day, the family came. Even though I had paid the bill, they were trying to sort out the bill. Now, I will tell you the problem now. I took a risk. Are we supposed to come to that level? No, is the answer. The federal government will make a budget and say, 300 billion on health this year. Maybe of the 300 billion...
I wish it's even up to 300 billion.
Of the 300 billion, they'll probably release maybe 120 billion. Okay. And of the 120 billion, maybe 80 billion has gone into recurrent expenditure and not even capital projects. For goodness sake, we don't need this. All we need is that a framework that Obasanjo put in place, National Health Insurance Scheme. Let us enforce it, that at the federal, at the state, at the local government, at the private sectors, let us enforce it. And let us have monitoring system that we enforce this. As we are enforcing that, let us have what we call hospital regulatory agencies that we go, clinics, set up a parameter, set up a yardstick that an average private hospital will meet before it can operate. And the moment it operates, NHIS is registered. They are registered with NHIS. Let us even do it that where we go to eat, the bookers we go to eat, there's all these girls that serve us there. Perhaps I'll find out that they are probably on a daily pay of about 500 naira. Let's even tell that girl that earns 500 naira every day, that every week you will part with 200 naira. That is, in a month, perhaps you will part with 800 naira or 1,000. This 1,000 that you are parting with is to take care of your health.
Guarantees your use of health facilities.
It's to take care of your health. Do you know? Let's even take Lagos that we have 2 million Lagosians that earn income. That's 1,000 naira times 2 million. That is running to billions at the end of the year. What is our budget on health in Lagos State? And with this, you see, if I am sick, Today, all they just need to do is to pick my phone or wherever and call off. By the time they take me to an hospital, they will treat me for free because they know I have an NHIS.
You know why this is very important, Smart?
If we have if you see, we have all these policies, why can't we even enforce it and build on it? That's why when Ashwaju talk about a blueprint, he said we have a blueprint and somebody has deviated from that master plan. Of course, it is germane. If you are going to, you say you could tinkle with a blueprint that is improving it, not jettisoning it.
For time's sake, Smart, let us.
Quickly put a word in, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
A group of retired senior nurses called me about 2 weeks ago in London, and they said they are very keen to use their monies to set up a pro bono interface that would, because as we speak, more than 90% of medical referrals from Nigeria to the United Kingdom are based essentially on misdiagnosis. You are shaking your head. Now, we need to also bring our medical personnel to contemporary knowledge in the industry. But the irony is that these women got together. They said Nigeria nurtured them. They went abroad. Some of them rose to the level of prescriptive matrons. These are matrons who are par with doctors. They want to give back, and you know the irony? People in government are refusing to engage with them. I just told them, I said, Auntie, am I worried? When I get back to Nigeria, I will look for hospitals, one in Mushi, one in Lekki, one in Ikorodu. Those hospitals that if they don't have, I will make sure that they also create teaching suites for you guys, that when you come, you will not only volunteer to help basic diagnosis of common ailments like diabetes, heart attack, the way people do it wrongly.
Even genotype. Sorry.
You know what? We need to refocus too. Apart from the systemic correction that my colleague has explained in detail now, like making sure that the NHIS is effective, we need to refocus too on the skills upgrade of our medical personnel. It is a disaster when in any jurisdiction they say 90% of the referrals from your jurisdiction to where you believe that they have superior infrastructure, that 90% of your referrals are based on misdiagnosis.
It's all right, gentlemen.
You remember You remember what the name of our sister? It's preposterous.
This is very fundamental. I recall when my wife was going to give birth in a general hospital, and a doctor walked to me and said that, you know what, you have to give me some money now if you don't want her to be operated on.
Why is that?
At that point, I knew that it was wrong to, bribe him, but it was the life of my wife at stake. So I had to put my hand in the pocket and give him some money.
What was the money for? Was he working
so that
extra
he
hours?
can expedite, he can pay more attention. It has gotten that bad.
Wow.
And it's the life of people we're talking about. For instance, in 2001, countries under the African Union came together in Abuja to decide to spend not less than 15% of the annual budget on health. Nigeria is not even spending 5%.
It's not even only the money now.
This year now, it's about 3.9%.
If you throw money at a bad player, it's a bad player.
All right.
It's all right.
We have to leave it here now. So many issues. But we will still look forward to government to give direction as we also call on private sector. Well, but you know a lot of people across the world who be interested in Nigeria to come and do business, and
they could be interested. Is the government giving them the
exactly?
I told Nigerians in the diaspora. I told Nigerians in the diaspora that to be waiting for the government to call on them is irresponsible.
Yes,
indeed, Nigeria is beckoning at them to come, and whilst they are making money, throwing their monies and their ideas and their cutting-edge knowledge and listening to Nigeria, they will make money, they will build infrastructure, and for some of us, we are ready to engage with them to even nurture a good tomorrow for Nigeria by training our youths.
Okay.
Well, Oba,
Let's leave it here now.
thank you very much for finding time to join us. Smart Apujoyi, social commentator and public affairs analyst. It's good to have you always.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And have a great Independence celebration ahead.
Yeah, we're continuing it.
Thank you.
Independence Day celebration.
Independence Day celebration.
Flag and anthem, Independence Day celebration. I look forward to see the day that Nigerians will really feel very independent.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Thank you very much.